All right, you guys, welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan Phipps, and it's my current mission to mentor driven people to a successful future by using fitness as the gateway. And I have a very, very special video for you guys planned today. This one's a little outside the box of the normal content that I make, but as you might know, fitness is a large passion of mine, but business is also a massive passion of mine, and I wanted to make a video on how to start a business specifically. So let's dive in. If you're here, I know you're a growth-minded person. I know you're somebody who's future-oriented. I know you're somebody who just has an internal drive for success. And I personally don't believe that there is a greater thing that you could just aim for or create or build or work towards in life than building a business that just gives you the life you want, but also allows you to access your unique ability and serve people in the way that you were meant to. So let's dive into how to start a business. And I want to start today by telling you guys a little bit of a story. So I graduated from high school in 2020. Now, as we all know and all remember, that time period was crazy, right? Plans went out the door. Nobody was really sure of anything. And really how that changed my life was I stopped playing soccer, right? Soccer was my whole life, as you can see from my senior photo right here. I've always been a very all or nothing type of person. So when I stopped playing soccer, I felt very lost, very anxious, and just really didn't know what my life was going to look like, right? I genuinely thought growing up that soccer was going to be my whole life. It might sound a little bit crazy, but honestly, if you're here interested in starting a business, then you'll know that that mindset is important, that mindset of self-belief. And I had that through sports growing up, through soccer. And I didn't know what to do with myself when I lost that. So after that, I quickly got into the gym to fill the void that soccer left in my life. I knew I'd found my new passion after I got into the gym, saw some results for myself, and I decided to actually get a job as a personal trainer as a result of that. So that was definitely something that massively changed my life, was losing soccer and then jumping into the gym. Basically, like, being able to have this new thing to give my energy towards, and I loved it. It allowed me to stay active, and I understood how it worked at a certain point, and I was like, I'm all in on this. I want to help other people do the same thing. So eventually at that job, I realized that it was a job and not a career. And what I mean by that is I couldn't build the future I wanted personal training, but I loved it, right? I loved getting to help people. I love the fitness aspect. I love the discipline, the things that come with it, the education, the learning, as you can see right here. This was before, fitness coaching was my job or anything related to that. Like, I just had this huge passion for learning. This was like just a huge project, kind of like just fitness information that I was teaching myself at the time, so I could teach the clients that I had. That was always all over my room. This was all research, over here, whiteboard with my own goals. Like, I was just wicked locked into the whole passion of learning, and it just didn't feel like work, is basically the point. That's how I knew it was my passion. But when I realized, I can't really live off of this, I can't really make a career out of this, like, I can't really grow anymore with this, past this, I kind of had what I call like my quarter life crisis. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to lose my passion again. And that pushed me, kind of scared me into starting my own business in a way where I was like, I don't want to lose my passion again, but I do want to keep helping people and just not have a ceiling for growth. At the end of the day, I don't want anybody to be able to determine, except me, what my ceiling for growth is. So I decided to start a business. Now, this is for you if you've thought, how do I start my own business? If you've thought that to yourself, if you've wondered what it's like to run a business, if you have that internal drive for success and you're looking for something to apply it towards, your conscience just keeps talking to you and saying that you're capable of more, but you don't exactly know how to apply that to things. I'll go over things that I would recommend doing in a business context in this video, things I wouldn't. And then I have a surprise for you at the end if you're serious about changing your life, so be sure to stick around to the end of the video. But let's dive into the main reason why you're here, which is learning how to start your business, right? So the first step is actually getting crystal clear on your why. Now, this sounds a bit cliche, but it is so true. It is so important. And it's the reason people start businesses, right? I started my business because I didn't want to lose my passion again, right? The pain of losing soccer and just basically being lost, having an identity crisis was so strong that I'm like, I don't want this to happen again. And I really liked helping people get healthy, get fit. Growing up, I watched my mom battle severe health issues, so I knew firsthand what it was like watching somebody go through health issues, and I know what that could look like for family members or people close to them as well, because that was me. And it kind of filled an internal bucket of meaning for myself to be able to help other people avoid that situation. And I just didn't want to lose that, right? No other job sounded more fulfilling than that, because I had purpose and meaning congealed into one thing. And it gave me the belief that this is what I was meant to do. Now, you'll generally also have kind of two things happening at the same time, right? You'll envision your ideal future. So for me, that was, when I was thinking about building the online coaching business, it's okay. Like, I want freedom of time. Obviously we want abundance. We want, just to live a certain way, right? So you can kind of envision your ideal future. Again, it might be more income related for you. It might be more time related. It might be who you help, a combination of all of those things, but something to aim at, and then a pain pushing you away from somewhere you don't want to be. Growing up, my family struggled financially, and I was always just aware of what that looked like, right? I grew up pretty fast hearing these conversations, learning these things, and I really didn't want to repeat that cycle within my own life. So the idea or thought of taking control of that for myself through running my own business was great, right? It was pushing me away from somewhere I didn't want to be and pulling me towards the dream that I had. So we generally need this catalyst for change as well, right? I see this in the fitness context all the time, right? People who commit to themselves and make the transformations are generally the people with the biggest pain, right? They are, and these are real examples that I'll use too. It's the father who, just is worried that his physical shape is going to limit his ability to grow up with his kids, right? It's going to limit his quality of life with his kids, right? It is the person who goes through a really painful breakup and never wants to feel like they are lesser than ever again, right? It is the person who just has that internal drive for success screaming at them, and just knows that they're capable of more, and just knows that fitness is such a big aspect of that because of the disciplines that come from it, right? We need that catalyst for change. And it's the same thing for business. Funny enough, what my catalyst for change in a business context was actually getting offered a promotion at my personal training job, right? You go from personal trainer to manager, and with being a manager, you'd make a couple more bucks or whatever, but the responsibilities would be different. I wouldn't be able to train people anymore, which is what I loved about the job. And the other thing was really just the fact that, like, I'd seen other managers basically like lose their mental health because they're the first people there when things start to go wrong. I didn't want to live at that place, right? That wasn't my dream, right? So it really scared me. I call it, again, like my quarter life crisis, where I'm like, oh, like, I have a job, not a career, and I really need to start thinking about my future. So that's what pushed me to start a business, in short. So identifying your why. Now, here are some tactical steps on how to start your business as well. So tactical steps, right? Save up money. This is definitely an important one. Now, I was able to do this while personal training people, just kind of build that nest egg, kind of to act a bit of a buffer between you, some mistakes, some events and stuff. Once you do start your business, this is something I didn't do from the start that I basically just through self-education taught myself to do over time, and is budgeting. And I would definitely recommend the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I run my personal finances and business finances through this system. Super simple to use. Just commonsensical stuff that'll give you a system just to use and be confident in. Anybody can use it. Doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, but it is helpful for entrepreneurs as well. There's kind of a rule of thumb as well, and this isn't set in stone, but this is a saying that I wanted to put in here just because it might apply to some people. Don't go full-time with your business until you can replace your current income with your business income. My path was a little bit different because I did kind of have that nest egg savings to act as a buffer when I started, but I think in general that is a pretty smart rule of thumb. Now, another thing is using social media, right? When you start your business, you should be focused on building your brand. You are your brand, right? It doesn't matter what you do. I do fitness coaching, so teaching people how to live a self-improvement based lifestyle, intertwining with business, intertwining with having a growth mindset, that internal drive for success, being an entrepreneur, just being somebody growth-minded, career-oriented. Like, those are the types of things that I like to talk about because they also just attract people like me. You're going to want to work with those people, but also just letting people know you or your business beyond just the service that you provide is very helpful, right? People get, in my context, like, you'd get sick of hearing me talk about, just food and diets and workouts, and like, those things are great and they're helpful, but like, obviously I'm doing this video right here because this is kind of just a passion project of mine, right? Through watching this, you'll get to know me a little bit better than someone who's just, teaching people how to get fit. Obviously this is a kind of like a pillar, profession and mindset and that type of stuff as well within self-improvement. So I think it's going to be very advantageous to do that. The best connections and friendships and stuff I've built haven't even necessarily been based off of my main thing, but have been built just off of, who I am because I share these things online. And here's another thing too. So tactically, when you're starting your business, you're going to want to reach out to everybody, right? Reach out to friends, family, all your contacts, people you went to school with, whoever that might be, just basically asking if they're interested in whatever it is that you provide. Now, this is a scary step because you're going to have to put yourself out there, but we'll talk more about what that actually looks like. I mean, you're going to have to put that to the side and do that. That's just a fact. We'll dive into that more, like I said. But one thing that you should be prepared for is most likely the people closest to you won't actually be your first customers, right? And this sounds a bit surprising because it's like they should support me most, but I think the real reason for this is they know the old you. They knew you before you started the business. Obviously, you went through some things. You changed to start the business, and you're becoming a new, higher, more developed version of yourself that they actually might not relate with. But you still have to reach out to everybody at first. It is important, but I'm just setting that because that surprised me a lot. And shout out to a few of my friends who did support me from the start. It genuinely meant everything. But you might be surprised just with who your first customers are is what I'm trying to say. It might not be the closest people to you, again, for those reasons. Another thing is document everything, right? In my context in fitness coaching, the first few transformations I had were the most valuable, right? It's one thing to hear me talk about how to get in shape and see my progress photos because people from the outside would look at me and just think, yeah, you're somebody who teaches people how to do this. Of course you know how to do this. But when you take somebody and deliver them through a transformation, right? When I take the entrepreneurial father with 4 kids who's, working 90 hours a week and teach him how to do it, people understand that it will work for them as well, right? The same thing when I teach somebody who's in college how to do this and they're, eating out of off a meal plan in the cafeteria, they understand and resonate with that. Let your customers sell for you by documenting everything. It is just so valuable. So, it could be text, screenshots, testimonials, videos that people make for you based on, the satisfaction of their transformations, reviews, like all of those things. Just make sure that you have those from the start. It doesn't matter what it is. When other people see, kind of like hype around what it is that you're doing, other people are just naturally going to be interested so much more than if you're just telling them. So that's helpful. Now, after you start, you are going to enter what is called the void, right? I like to call this the void because that's what it feels like. It's like it can be just this dark, scary, place, and you can't see the end. But it is so important to go into this season of business knowing that you have to believe in yourself more than anybody else because other people probably won't believe in you as much as you, and that's just kind of how it is. That's how it has to be. That's almost you proving to yourself, to God, to the universe, to whatever you want to say, that you want this bad enough, right? And this quote from Alex Hormozy, if you don't watch him, definitely would. Kind of a entrepreneurial genius, I would say. But anyways, that's a side tangent. This quote from him, I think, perfectly articulates what this feels like. So he calls it the lonely chapter. It's the chapter where you don't fit in with your own friends, but you don't have the outcomes yet to fit into a new group of friends, right? Again, often this happens because you have changed in starting the business, right? Something happened to you. It could have been a life event. It could have been a realization. It could have been, a breakup, an injury, losing a family member, a loved one, an income situation, like all of the things of life that happen that change us, that push us. We have the ideal future we're chasing and then something pushing us away. So you're not necessarily going to fit in with the old friends that you had, so to speak, right? You're not going to be able to keep being the degenerate you might have been and achieve the new goals that you have, right? You're not going to be out at the bars and building your business at the same time. You got to choose one or the other. And if you're choosing building your business, then you're just not going to be around the same people in the same context. But you also don't have the quote unquote success or the stats to reach the new group of friends, right? This picture here was when I was paying, I paid money to go to they call it a mastermind. You just get around other business owners and, it's not framing it as buying friends, but you are buying time with people doing the thing that you want to do, right? I wouldn't, some of these people became my friends, but I didn't have this group of friends until I made those steps and invested into those relationships, into those experiences and opportunities, right? So, if you're going through this season kind of wondering if it's worth it and you're not seeing any signs of success, just know that that's normal, right? A sign of success is going to be the hate that you get along the way for this, right? It is super natural. Not everybody's going to support you, but if you can enter this, and I wish I knew this from the start, which is why I wanted to include this. If you can enter this season knowing that that is a good sign, it's not going to hurt as much, right? I remember, working 70, 80-hour weeks and wondering why I'm reaching out to people and I'm literally getting told, go screw yourself, F off, you know, like it's like I'm putting my everything into this, offering it to people, and sure, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to, you know, achieve a fitness transformation, but just to have people say those little things to you sometimes when you're literally putting your livelihood, your heart, your soul, your mindset, everything into this, like day and night, 7 days a week, sacrificing quote unquote, you know, fun or whatever people like to call it, you know, like it hurts sometimes. But more recently, you know, it's like I haven't really taken that in a negative way because I've learned these things along the way. You know, I reached out and, you know, through outreach, offered coaching to somebody, and they're like, you know, dude, go F yourself, I hate your hair. Like, it's like, okay, that's funny. Like, he knew my high school nickname. The guy knew me. I have no clue who this guy was, so I kind of could just laugh it off because it's like, well, something must have worked. You clearly know who I am and what I do, and it's not for you. And if, you know, this makes you that upset, then, you know, I'm having some type of impact out there. People are talking about it, whatever it might be. But that is a sign of success along the way, right? You can't serve everybody. And again, that's why you're you know, you're best equipped to serve a certain group of people. The same way, you know, I've sent the same kind of contexted message to people, and they've been like, this is a sign. I need to change my life. Like, I'm so happy you reached out to me. Let's do the thing. And then they lose 40 pounds. Their wife tells them they're proud of them, and, you know, they're just a better dad. Like, you know, you can't soak it up too much. But again, in this step, it's important because so much growth is going to happen as a result of this, and you just have to treat it like a test. So this is tactically how to navigate that void, that season, that lonely chapter. You have to remember your why. You know, at the end of the day, it sounds cliche, but you have to remember why you're doing this. This is when most people quit because it can be really hard, right? But once you get through this season, it will be easier. It will feel downhill. Things will get easier. And what took me out of this chapter was seeking like-minded people. You know, I isolated probably a bit too long when I started my business. You know, really took that as like, I can't keep doing the same things I was doing, and I need to isolate, lock in, and focus. And I think there is a season for that, but I think I pushed that too far. And what really helped me was just finding a group of like-minded people. You know, blessed to have this dinner with. This was kind of my sign when I knew this season was over. You know, I was able to host a dinner with kind of a top group of my clients. Everybody was entrepreneurial. Everybody runs a business. And we, you know, it wasn't just about the fitness. Like, yeah, we connected on fitness, but I got to like form a group of friends just out of my business, out of this passion. You know, that's how I like to do things. And those people are still all in my lives and just great people. So, you know, very grateful for that, but seek like-minded people as well. This will lead you to your first transformation. So you'll be a different person after leaving the void. Again, this is a constant journey of just you changing, but you're going to be a different person after you go through that very, very difficult season for the first time. You know, you'll have gotten the courage to start your business. You'll have really been the only person rooting for you truly throughout this process, and you'll have made it through, right? You'll have made it through, and you'll have the lessons that you learned, and you'll also have the new connections that you made along the way. And by this point, you'll just know what you're made of for yourself. Now, here are some things too that I like to point out. You know, when you do start to feel different, when you start to get those wins, and you have that clear before and after of who you were before and, you know, who you are now as an entrepreneur, right? Celebrate the wins for sure. I wish I took more time to do that. You know, honestly, just it's the little things. I wish I took more time, you know, after getting a business win to like take myself out to dinner, you know, like just something simple like that, you know, just going to get some food I like, hanging out at the end of the day, watching a show I like, watching a YouTube video, instead of just still having that scarcity mindset that, you know, you just work. It's like there are so many wins that I didn't celebrate that I wish I did. And now this is true too. Don't take your foot off the gas. There were some seasons where big wins kind of caused me to feel a bit safer than I was. Now I realize those two things conflict. Celebrate the wins, you know, give yourself a little bit of time to do that, but large picture, don't take your foot off the gas. Don't relax. You know, there were many seasons I think I did that in looking back on when it just was the wrong approach. You know, the celebration that I did allow myself kind of turned into comfort. You know, you kind of stop doing the fundamental things that move the needle forward for a few days. And, you know, the business will suffer as a result of that. So don't take your foot off the gas, but do celebrate your wins. And don't change what's working too quickly. Kind of getting that shiny object syndrome. Like, if something's working, try to do more of it. Again, this is an Alex Hormozi thing, but just do more of what's working instead of completely changing it because you know it's working, right? Try to max that out first. You know, an example of this for your business might be like messaging people, sending people messages, seeing if they're interested, or posting. You know, if posting seems to get you, you know, traction and people interested, you know, instead of like posting 4 times, like completely switching up posting, you're posting 4 times a week. How can I post every day? How can I post twice a day? Right? Those types of things. Just lean into the things that are working because they're a bit safer. And honestly, at first, you took a huge risk starting the business. Just you'll want some security in what's going to bring you revenue, bring you customers, and reflect on what's working. Keep a journal, keep a personal journal. What goes well in your personal life when things are going well, when business is going well, how do you feel day to day? Like those types of things are really important to log as well. Don't get arrogant. I don't think a lot of people do this, but it is something that can happen. Obviously, is like you get big wins or you kind of have that transformation, just be humble about it, or else you'll get humbled. I don't want to spend too much time on the negative, but that is so true. Pay attention to who's there, in your difficult seasons and in your best seasons, because at the end of the day, at least for myself, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, like we're doing this to pay back the people who supported us forever growing up. We're doing this for them. For me, that's my parents, like the dream of retiring them, giving them the house, and just proving to them that like, they invested into me when I was younger. Like, that brings me a ton of meaning. So pay attention to who's there through those seasons and express gratitude for all of it. Express gratitude for the hardships because they bring lessons. Express gratitude for the wins because obviously they feel great. And help others, right? Aim to help others. Now that you've been through that difficult season, you've been through the void, you are equipped to help others. And this is just going to take you not just to that next level in business, but just as a person. And set goals that are more clear as well, right? Get crystal clear on the goals that you want, right? This is something that I wish I did earlier on. Like not just saying, I want to, like, here's an example, not just saying like, I want to grow my Instagram, right? Saying I want to have X amount of followers. Not just saying I want to make X amount of money, but maybe like breaking it, I want to make this much a month, right? Like getting crystal clear on the things that are tangible and you can measure and stick to. And it's okay to have more vague abstract goals as well. I think more of my personal ones are, but crystal clear goals are easier to reach because you can measure them basically. And at this point, you're just going to enter the constant cycle of improvement, right? It's just a never ending cycle of winning and losing. But you're more equipped, right? You're more equipped for the difficult seasons because you learned so much along the way, right? And this is one of the biggest things, if I could emphasize anything as the biggest reason I love business, but also probably the reason that it's so painful, is it's a reflection of your strengths and weaknesses, right? If you have a hard time setting boundaries, right? Your business is probably going to run your life. You are going to have a difficult time with scheduling. People are going to schedule things with you at all the time, and you're going to feel like you have to give them your time, and you might for a bit, but it'll become a problem as it crosses over into different domains of life as well, right? If you are, I'm trying to think of another weakness without ripping myself apart right here. Here's an example for myself as well, right? Another weakness, if you're a very all or nothing person at times, I think it can be a strength and a weakness, right? You can kind of not know when to quit certain things, right? If something's not working, you're not going to know when to cut it off, and you want to just keep forcing it and forcing it and forcing it. And your strength as well, right? I'm a very social person. I think I've done very well, like building high quality relationships with people, with clients, friends, and all that type of stuff as well. And that has benefited me in my business, right? It all just shows up because when it's just you, like, your strengths are the strengths, your weaknesses are the weaknesses. And your business will never exceed your level of personal development. Again, that's why I love it and why it's so challenging sometimes, because you have to face those things. You have to do the things you don't want to do. It's going to be the answer at the end of the day, but it's also a guarantee that if you do those things, you are going to become an extremely developed, just high-performing version of yourself that's well-rounded. And I love this. This is really the philosophy that I aim to teach my fitness coaching clients. Again, in a fitness context, people, they come into the program not knowing what to eat, what workouts to do, and that's okay. Like, they don't have to be perfect. Our goal is just to get incrementally better over time, right? If you get 1% better every day, by the end of a year, you'll end up almost 38% better, right? And that's the goal, just small improvements over time, and before you know it, just like fitness, you're going to have the before and after picture in your business. Your life is going to be a before and after picture. Your relationships are going to be a before and after picture. You are just going to be a before and after picture of self-improvement, personal development, and you're guaranteed to get there if you don't quit, right? That's really what it comes down to, is just two things, right? Constantly improve and just don't give up, right? So here are some tips to tactically kind of navigate that never-ending cycle of that improvement, right? You're going to want to get around growth-minded people. This is huge. They're going to hold you to standards. They're going to teach you things, right? Again, like, everybody has different strengths, weaknesses. Their unique ability is going to rub off on yours, right? I'm a very social person, for example. but I'm not an extremely gifted like system or structure builder, right? I have a friend, and shout out to Zach, like super smart guy, engineer. He's got it all, in my eyes. Like he can build the systems, he can have deep conversations. So he rubs off on me in that sense, right? Some of my friends as well, like it's just great to have those people around you because you recognize their strengths, you recognize a lot of the things that really, you can benefit from being around those people. They'll support you through difficult times, but you're also going to learn from them as well. And you're going to want to do the inner self work that most people avoid too. Again, like you're going to have to know yourself very well, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, acknowledge them, take them on, win, fail against yourself. And that's how you're going to move the needle forward in business as well. And enjoy the journey. There's always going to be another goal. You'll get the client, make the sale, sell the house, buy the car, like whatever it is, just enjoy it, right? The joy actually comes from setting the goal and not being there yet. The second you get it, like you get the dopamine, but there's just going to be another goal. Take yourself out to dinner, hang out with your friends, like do those things in a non-destructive way, because that is the journey, right? That is the journey. Never quit, right? Super important. You'll get there if you don't quit, right? The path to plan A might change, but plan A is still plan A, right? That vision of retiring your parents, that vision of, not repeating the same generational cycles that you went through, not, putting your kids through the hardships that you went through, that's still plan A. How you get there might change. It will change, right? The way you think it's going to work out, it's not when you first start this. But keeping plan A, and just saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. Like, it doesn't matter if, I have to drive DoorDash to do this. It doesn't matter if I have to pick up another job. It doesn't matter if, I have to sacrifice this or not do this or, stop buying this or whatever it might be. Like, you are going to get there. The path might change, but the destination is still the exact same. And build your team, right? Again, having that group of people. I have a great team of people in my corner, shout out to Zach. Shout out to my friend Eric, shout out to Bill, right? I have these people who all have different unique abilities and strengths that I've tried to get clear on, and they're all there for me, and I'm there for them, and we feed off of each other, we help each other, we all really support each other in our growth, both personally and professionally, and just be grateful, right? Be grateful for the things you do have, be grateful for the challenges as well, because more often than ever, actually every time, the hardest challenges will bring the best gold, so to speak, right? Like, you just learn the best lessons through the things you least want to do, and just be grateful for that. It's so easy to say, and I understand that when you're going through a hard season, and maybe you can't be grateful until after, but the gratitude will be the difference between tragedy and hell, right? You don't want to be in hell, but if something's bad, it might as well just be a little bit better. And set very, very clear goals. Again, like life goals, have that 3 to 5 year life plan. And again, it might not go the way that you think, but having that gives you something to aim for, because you're definitely not going to get there if you don't set the goal, and have some fun with the process. Business is fun. The people you're going to meet through entrepreneurship are fun. They're like you. They're growth minded. They're just going to encourage and motivate you. Like, it is fun. Fall in love with the whole process. And here are some things I wish I did different, kind of, because, well, it was my journey, the lessons I had to learn, but at least sharing this with you, it might save you some pain, and it likely will save you some money too. What I potentially could have done different, not get shiny object syndrome, right? Not like jump from thing to thing, especially on social media. Like, you're going to see something working for someone and think, oh, I should go do this too. And it's not going to work for you, right? You don't understand the context to which they're operating in. Double down on what is working for you. More, better, new is Alex Hormozi's framework that I like. Do more of what works, aim to do it better, and then jump to something new once you've maxed those first two out. Again, don't take your foot off the gas after a win. Thinking about this in a athlete's context, the greatest athletes are great because they do it for 10, 15 years in a row. They perform their best for 10, 15 years in a row. That's the difference between a good and a great athlete, is their longevity, right? A good athlete can show up for a season, maybe for a game, but the great ones do it consistently. Letting your personal life and your work life overlap. Now, I've done this a few times, and it can be painful when it doesn't end up working out. So have, clear filters for those things. If you're somebody who operates better within just not letting those two things overlap, that could be beneficial as well. But those are some of the most painful lessons, I think, when the two intertwine and then don't end up working out. So another thing, having a tighter budget when things are going well. I think living below your means is a great thing for an entrepreneur. There'll be that give and the take with seasons of investing and taking risks, obviously. But in general, I think being disciplined, living below your means. Like, being an entrepreneur is riskier enough, and always putting yourself in that jeopardy versus a calculated risk are two different things. So definitely, going back to the budgeting total money makeover, highly recommend that. And just stressing less about things and remembering it's all part of the journey. The hard seasons are part of the journey. The wins are part of the journey. The uncertainty is, and it's the nature of what you signed up for, right? I tell myself sometimes, like, I signed up for this. This is what I want to do, and it still is, right? So just knowing those things. And here are some things that served me well as well. Learning before earning. There were several opportunities where, from a pure dollars perspective, I wasn't making as much as I could have, right? Maybe it was a client who signed on for less, at first, but I realized, like, this person's transformation is going to be way more valuable than the money they could pay me, because then I can use it to market, right? Things like that. So I had many examples of things like that where I focused on the skills it was going to teach me, the relationships I'd build, the connection that I'd gain instead. Because honestly, at first, like, that's what you should be doing, right? You're not in a position to earn as much as you should yet, because you still have a lot to learn, and that's just how it works. Networking, right? Intentionally meeting people, right? Honestly, that's been one of the greatest things, is just meeting people. You're going to meet people who want to mentor you, be your friend, be your client. Like, it's just such a powerful thing, and I think it has kind of a gross feeling to it. It's really just meeting people. It's just meeting people, getting to know them, having a genuine interest in them. I hope if you ever meet me, like, you get the feeling that I actually do want to know you. I love talking to new people. I think it is my unique ability to connect with people one-on-one and have deep conversations, but it's going to bring you to a really good place where you're going to end up serving people like you. Again, I'd been able to build some really good friendships from clients because I aim to attract people like me, right? If you've sat through half an hour of a video of me talking about business, you're probably just like me. You're going to relate to the things, relate to the story, relate to my mindset, relate to the self-improvement, the fitness, the internal drive for success, all of those things, right? And you can do the same thing just by putting yourself out there, right? If I was too nervous to speak, or, was like, yeah, this video really isn't like fitness related per se, so I shouldn't do it because it's not, my main business related or whatever, like, I would never make those connections. People would never hear this side of me. And that's so important to just build the business you want of people like you, essentially, no matter what you do, right? Your kind of customer is always going to be a version of yourself, the people you're going to jive with the most and actually, like, be friends with. And I call this giving plus 1% time and energy. At first, this was working, like, I don't even know how many hours a week, weekends, nights, all of that type of stuff. I would mark it in my calendar, end of the day, plus 1% time. Alex Hormozi says the work starts when your motivation ends, right? Like, those did pay massive dividends for me at first, just because you're just doing as much as you can, essentially. And documenting everything, documenting the high, not just for yourself, but also for your business and for the story, the highs and the lows, right? In a fitness context, right? People only want to take those photos of themselves when they have the abs, when they're lean. But then they look back and say, oh, I wish I had photos of me when I was overweight, because it's for yourself. You get to prove it to yourself. You have the clear before and after. So take the photos of all of those things, document the journey. I have pictures of the budgets that I've made where I am thousands of dollars short, right? Photos of my car when it died in the worst possible season, videos of me door dashing when business was tough. Like, you just get a better story as a result of those hard times. And it actually kind of in the moment helps you a little bit to remember, like, I'm documenting this now because it's not going to be like this forever, and someday I'll tell the story, and someday this will be a reason why I won. And another thing is just knowing that it's already done. Go into your business with the mindset that it's already done. You've already built the thing. It's already complete. You can never break that mindset. And this is one thing I've noticed across all of my coaching clients who are entrepreneurs, is they have that mindset. Yes, they had difficult seasons, but they never truly believed that they couldn't do the thing. And you have to have the same exact mindset. And this is the part where I just want to give to you, right? I have a surprise for you. If you've made it this far in the video, you deserve to be rewarded for that. And I want to reward that internal drive for success that you have. So I have a surprise for you. It is called the High Performance Challenge, where you can get results like this, right? So you're going to get results like my client Jay, who joined the program because he didn't know what to eat for his goals. He didn't know what workouts to do to actually reach his goals. He wanted a system that would help him lose weight so he could keep up with his kids as he aged, and he lost 45 pounds, right? He got that custom system that was built for an entrepreneur, built for his growth mindset, built for his habits, his routines, all of that really, really good, impactful stuff that allowed him to not only change his body, but change his family, right? his wife came up to him and said, "Thank you for leading the charge in our family for health," right? As a guy, you know what that means to you. You'll also make results like Jack, where he joined the program because he said, "I feel like I owe this to myself." He joined because he wasn't confident in what he was doing in the gym or in the kitchen, and he was looking for a custom system that he knew would get him to his goals, right? He went through the program, lost 30 pounds, mastered his nutrition, overcame his gym anxiety, and actually started teaching his friends how to work out. And he actually gained so much confidence from this transformation that he started his own business, right? He does real estate now. But I knew early on, just through talking to Jack, that he had the mindset, right? He'd stop drinking, he'd stop partying, he'd just set goals for himself. He wanted to prove it to himself. He had that internal drive for success. So it was no surprise to me when he went through this transformation program and he gained the confidence to start his business, because he saw firsthand that fitness and business go hand in hand. You learn the discipline, you learn the skills, you learn that the inputs that you have achieve a certain output, and business works the same exact way. That's why I'm making this video right here. Same thing for my man Eric right here. So, Eric joined because he wanted to learn what to do to see results. He was building his business in his dorm room, right, in college. He struggled with knowing what to eat. He struggled with meal prepping. He wanted to build that routine of a high performer, right? He didn't just want to make the fitness transformation, but he wanted to build the lifestyle, the routine of a high performer, right? When you think of a lot of business owners, they are in shape, right? And fitness isn't their main thing a lot of the time, but usually it was a chapter in their lives, because there's a direct correlation between fitness and business success, right? So Eric lost 20 pounds. He knows exactly what to eat and how to cook for his goals. And now he's using that exact mindset and structure to run his business. Or for Josh, right? Josh had been stuck for 3 years before he joined the program. He wanted to improve his relationship with food, and he wanted to make these changes even though he was slammed with his busy schedule through running his business, right? He lost 30 pounds. He knows exactly what to do, how to diet, and just what to do to see results. And he's doing the same thing while crushing his business. Guys, this is not just for business owners, but if you are interested in running a business, getting in shape is going to be the easiest path to success for that, because the two things go hand in hand, like we've spoken about here today. So guys, I want to say thank you so much for your time. If you're interested in learning how to use fitness as the gateway to a successful future, click the link down below to learn more about the High Performance Challenge, where you're going to get all of the training, nutrition, and accountability that you need to succeed and finally become a high performer who can not only get in shape, but successfully run a business.